The thing about betrayal? It doesn't knock. It slips in like a draft through a cracked window, quiet, cold, and easy to ignore until your bones start to ache. It was a Tuesday night. Not a dramatic one. Not stormy or symbolic, just plain, Midwestern uneventful. I was reheating leftover lasagna when the phone buzzed on the counter. One of those buzzes that hums a little too long. That hum that says, "This one matters." I didn't recognize the number, but the message came through anyway. One line. One grenade. "You should ask your wife who she spent last weekend with." No punctuation. No signature. Just doom in Helvetica. I stared at it. At first, I laughed. Because that's what you do when life hands you a cliché. Then I showed it to Monica, thinking maybe we'd share a laugh. She didn't laugh. She froze. That freeze told me everything. I wasn't supposed to see the crack. I wasn't supposed to ask. I was supposed to be the kind of man who doesn't check his phone, who lets things slide. And maybe, for a long time, I was. But I'd seen it now. That text didn't come from a troll or a prankster. It came from the universe tugging my sleeve, whispering, "Hey buddy, you're in the wrong movie." "Monica?" I asked. She blinked. Once. Twice. "It's probably just spam," she said, too quickly. "Is it true?" She didn't say yes. She didn't say no. She sighed, like I was asking her to explain calculus to a squirrel. I stepped back. Something about her eyes, the calm, calculating kind of quiet, made my stomach do that elevator drop. That was when I knew the thing was real. And it had teeth. This wasn't just a bad night. This was the start of something unmaking itself. "Adam," she finally said, setting her wine glass down with surgical precision, "don't make this bigger than it is." The thing was, Monica was always good at reframing disaster. Like calling a forest fire an aggressive sunset. But tonight, she couldn't quite get the script right. Her fingers fidgeted. Her breath came shallow. She looked like a woman who'd been caught shoplifting emotions. I didn't shout. Didn't throw anything. I just stood there in our quiet kitchen, my kingdom of meal preps and wine nights, watching the drywall peel back from my reality. "Just tell me," I said, voice like sandpaper. "Who?" Her lips parted, and for a split second I thought maybe she'd lie. Maybe she'd feed me a soft name. A stranger's name. A fictional one, like Trent from spin class. But no. "It's Joel," she whispered. Now, Joel wasn't a friend. That would have been too tidy. He was worse. Joel was the contractor who renovated our deck last spring. The one who flirted like it was a construction perk. The one with the tribal tattoos and the laugh that made Monica touch her hair too much. "You're kidding," I said, but I already knew she wasn't. "He was there," she added. "That weekend I told you I was at Karen's lake house." My jaw clenched. And Karen? Was she real? She flinched. Karen covered for me. So now we were 2 for 2, a betrayal and a co-conspirator. I leaned against the fridge, suddenly aware of every dumb magnet on its door, photos of us, holiday cards, grocery lists. All of it looked staged now, like props from a sitcom set. I asked the dumbest question of all. Why? She didn't cry. Didn't get defensive. Just stared at the floor and said, "Because I forgot what it felt like to feel wanted." That one hit. Not because it was profound, but because it was honest. "I gave you everything," I said. She nodded. "Exactly." And just like that, I understood something awful. You can pour every ounce of yourself into a person, and they'll still thirst for water from a stranger's glass. She went upstairs after that. Not like someone ashamed, more like someone clocking out. Just turned her back and walked up the stairs as if this whole unholy revelation was a conversation about whether or not to repaint the bathroom. I stood there in the kitchen, the smell of reheated lasagna turning bitter in the air. The fridge hummed like it was the only thing still on my side. It's wild how your house stops feeling like home in a single evening. The counters look smug. The floors creak differently. Even the dog gives you a look like, "Hey, man. I just work here." I didn't follow her. Instead, I sat on the couch and stared at nothing. Every second I stayed felt like I was trespassing in my own life. She came back down 20 minutes later, holding a small suitcase. "I'm staying at my sister's," she said. That was her version of damage control. Same suitcase we used when we flew to Denver last year. I remember she stuffed it full of scarves and said the weather was unpredictable. Turns out she was just practicing. She paused at the door, like she might say something. An apology. A confession. A reason. But all she said was, "You'll be okay. You're strong." She left. I didn't stop her. And the weirdest part? I didn't cry. I just sat there wondering when my reflection in the TV screen started looking like a stranger. And if that stranger had seen this coming long before I did. The house was quiet now. Not peaceful quiet, the kind of quiet that whistles through the ruins after a storm. The kind that lets you hear things you'd been ignoring for years. The subtle creak in the floorboard by the sink. The clock in the hall ticking too fast. The echo of her absence bouncing off the walls like a taunt. I didn't sleep that night. I lay on our bed, my bed now, I guess, on top of the covers like I didn't want to wrinkle the sheets we'd once picked out together. Egyptian cotton, 600 thread count, navy blue. Her favorite. I stared at the ceiling like it might offer answers. It didn't. Just shadows and dust and the slow realization that I couldn't stay in this house much longer. By 4:30 a.m., I was sitting in the garage. No music. No distractions. Just the smell of motor oil and cardboard boxes I hadn't opened since we moved in. I found the cooler she always complained about me keeping. The one from college, covered in faded stickers and duct tape scars. Inside was a single Polaroid, us at the lake. I was holding a fish and grinning like an idiot. She was laughing, looking at me like I'd just told the funniest joke in the world. That look hadn't been seen in years. I didn't burn it. I didn't tear it up. I just put it back, like some sad museum curator preserving a relic no one visits anymore. At sunrise, I made coffee out of habit. Black. No cinnamon oat creamer. That was her thing. I sat by the window and watched joggers pass by like nothing had changed. It's amazing how the world keeps spinning while yours hits a wall. A woman ran by with a golden retriever and waved. I waved back. She didn't know she just waved to a man unraveling from the inside out. Around 8, I texted Joel. Yes, I know how that sounds. I wasn't looking for a fight. I didn't want threats or rage or to mark my territory like a caveman. I just wanted truth. Clean, unfiltered, unmistakable truth. So I sent, you and Monica. It's real? 3 dots. Then nothing. Then more dots. Like even his thumbs were conflicted. Finally, he replied, it wasn't supposed to happen. I'm sorry. I stared at the screen. Not because I didn't expect that answer, but because it was exactly what I did expect. That sorry wasn't for me, it was for his conscience. Like an old Band-Aid tossed in my direction from the safety of his cowardice. I didn't respond. Later that afternoon, Monica texted. Monica, let me know when you're ready to talk. I almost laughed. As if what we needed was a meeting. A sit-down. An agenda item. I didn't reply. I went for a walk instead. I passed the old bakery on Elm Street, the one that makes the muffins she used to crave during the first year of our marriage. I once drove across town at 6 a.m. to grab them before they sold out. Back when effort still felt like currency that mattered. The bakery's still there. Same chalkboard sign. Same smell of cinnamon and sugar. But it didn't make me feel nostalgic. Just tired. I kept walking until I hit the river trail. I stood there, watching the current, thinking about how much easier water has it. No guilt. No second guessing. It just moves forward, over rocks, around bends. Constant, no matter the weather. When I came back home, I opened the junk drawer. Found the spare key to the storage unit we hadn't touched in years. Drove across town, unlocked the rusted latch, and pulled open the door to find our past stacked in labeled bins. Zaz, old photo albums, wedding, camping stuff. I opened the wedding box. Inside was the dress she said she'd never part with. The veil. My boutonniere, still pressed between the pages of our guest book. I found the vow cards we wrote by hand. Hers was folded twice and smudged at the edges, probably from tears. She had underlined, I will never make you question your place in my life. I closed the box. Locked the unit. Left without a word. That night, I made one decision. I was done playing the silent half of someone else's story. The reliable fixture. The predictable background character in her drama. I wasn't going to rage. I wasn't going to cry. I was going to erase myself, methodically, precisely, and on my terms. I'd leave the things she expected me to fight for. The house. The dishes. The joint Spotify account. Let her have the echoes. I would take only what I needed. Peace, dignity, and my name. Tomorrow, I would start with the bank. Then the passwords. Then the lawyer. But tonight? Tonight I slept in the guest room with the door locked and the lamp off. And for the first time in weeks, the silence didn't feel like punishment. It felt like preparation. The next morning, I made a list. Not a poetic, dramatic list, just bullet points. Functional. Efficient. Like I was planning a move, not an escape. Maybe that's all heartbreak really is, a highly disorganized relocation of your soul. 1. Bank accounts. 2. Cell plan. 3. Email passwords. 4. The good toolbox. 5. The dog if she doesn't argue. I sipped my coffee, black, still, and stared at my own handwriting. I had better penmanship than I remembered. Years of scribbling pickup milk had apparently turned into something almost calligraphic. Funny what survives the fallout. At 9 a.m. sharp, I drove to the bank. "How can I help you today?" the teller asked. "I need to open a new account." She smiled, clicked her pen, and asked, "Joint or individual?" I paused. Then, "Just me." She nodded like she understood. Maybe she did. Maybe Tuesday mornings at the bank were when men with wedding rings still on their fingers came in looking for a fresh start and a debit card with no history. By noon, I'd moved my automatic paycheck deposit. By 2 p.m., I'd ordered a P.O. box in the next town over. No reason for it, other than needing space to receive things she'd never touch again: bills, letters, maybe peace. At 3:17 p.m., I stood in our bedroom. There was that word again. A ghost of possession still haunting my vocabulary. I stared at the dresser, the same one we bought after our first real fight. The fight had been over something stupid, like most fights are: a scratched coffee table or the wrong throw pillows. We bought furniture to fix it. The grown-up version of putting a Band-Aid on a bullet wound. Now, I was packing a duffel bag. Just a few clothes. My watch. The paperback I never finished. A photo of my dad. I didn't take much. Not because I'm noble, but because I didn't want memories that came with receipts. Around 5 p.m., the doorbell rang. I froze. No one rings our bell unannounced unless they're selling something or bringing bad news. Turned out it was both. Joel. Yeah, that Joel. I opened the door halfway, just enough to block his view of the inside. He looked exactly like he should have. Tan, confident, unaware of how punchable his face had become. "Hey," he said. I didn't reply. I thought maybe we could talk. Man to man. I raised an eyebrow. Man to man. I didn't plan for any of this, he added quickly. It just happened. That line again. It just happened. Like infidelity is a pothole you stumble into. Like someone else's wife is a banana peel you accidentally slipped on. "Let me guess," I said. "You never meant to hurt me?" His mouth opened. No sound came out. I smiled. "You did." Then I closed the door. He stood there for a beat. Maybe two. Then I heard footsteps retreating and a car engine start. Good. One less ghost in my hallway. Later that night, Monica texted again. "Monica, I feel like we owe each other more than silence." I didn't answer. Because she was wrong. Silence is exactly what we owed each other. It was the only honest currency left between us. Everything else had been spent on half-truths and late returns from girl weekends that smelled like his cologne. At 9:42 p.m., I put the house key in an envelope. I wrote nothing on it. No name. No explanation. Just left it on the kitchen table next to the basil plant she never watered. Let it wilt next to something else she forgot to care for. I slept on the couch one last time, not because I had to, but because I wanted to feel the room one more time before it stopped being mine. I woke up at 5 a.m., grabbed my bag, and walked out the front door. No note. No fight. No tears. Just one man, a packed duffel, and a silent resolve not to become a martyr in someone else's unfinished novel. I got in the car, pulled away, and never once looked in the rearview mirror. Because that house? That life? It wasn't mine anymore. I didn't drive far. Just far enough that the roads stopped looking familiar. I landed in a town with more deer than people and a diner that hadn't updated its menu since the invention of toast. The motel I found was called the Blue Lantern Inn. Nothing blue about it. Just chipped beige paint, a humming ice machine, and a check-in clerk who didn't ask questions. I handed over my license. He handed me a key with a plastic tag that said Room 6. "Need a wake-up call?" he asked. "Not anymore," I said. The room had all the usual decor. Sad curtains, a remote with 3 working buttons, and a framed painting of a canoe that had definitely never floated. I dropped my bag, kicked off my shoes, and sat on the edge of the bed like it might reveal the next step if I stared long enough. But the truth is, there is no roadmap for this. Nobody hands you a guide when your marriage crumbles. There's no emergency manual titled What to Do When Your Wife Falls in Love with a Contractor and you're left with a storage unit full of broken promises. So I improvised. I opened my laptop. New email address. New accounts. New passwords. It felt like creating a second self, one without the scars or the shared Wi-Fi. By noon, I was sitting in the diner, the kind of place where the waitress knows your order by the second visit and the pie by smell. I had a black coffee and a grilled cheese I didn't really want. Mostly I just sat and listened. A couple two booths over was arguing about paint samples. Something about how oyster white looked like old socks. It was oddly comforting. Normal people with normal arguments. No betrayal. No secret hotels. Just the fierce politics of home improvement. A man at the counter read a paperback mystery, one hand nursing a mug, the other turning pages with the precision of someone who had nowhere else to be. I envied him. Then my phone buzzed. Voicemail. From Monica. I didn't listen. Not yet. Instead, I forwarded it to my new inbox. I didn't want her voice in my ears. Not until I was ready. And that readiness? It was nowhere on today's schedule. The waitress, Rhonda, according to the tag, refilled my cup. First time here? She asked. Something like that, I said. She smiled. The kind of smile you give someone when you recognize the sadness but don't want to embarrass them by naming it. I nodded toward the counter. He always read the same book? She chuckled. That's his fourth copy. Same book. Keeps wearing him out. Must be a good story. Maybe. Or maybe he just likes knowing how it ends. That hit me harder than it should have. Because that was the thing with me and Monica. I thought I knew how it ended. House. Kids. Retirement with joint Facebook posts and matching patio chairs. Turns out, I didn't even know the middle. I went back to the room that night and played the voicemail. Her voice was small. Hey. I don't know what to say. I keep picking up my phone and putting it down. I feel like I'm talking to a ghost. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. For all of it. Then silence. The kind of silence that makes you think she's gone. But she wasn't. Joel's not. He wasn't what I thought. He's already pulling away. It's not like I imagined. You were right. You always were. About everything. She paused. Then, softer. I made a mistake. Please come home. Click. I sat with that message for a long time. I didn't feel victorious. I didn't feel vindicated. I felt tired. Because forgiveness isn't always about absolving someone. Sometimes it's just letting go of the weight that left in your chest. I closed my phone. Didn't reply. Instead, I wrote something down on a napkin I found in the glove box. She left when she was loved. She begged when she was alone. And somewhere in the middle, I learned how to live without either. I folded it, tucked it into my wallet, and slept with the window open. For the first time in weeks, the air didn't feel stale. And neither did I. 3 days passed before I drove back. Not to go home, not that it was mine anymore. But I needed closure. Real closure, not the kind wrapped in voicemail apologies and please come back texts. I timed it so I'd arrive around noon, when Monica was usually out. She still worked part-time at the boutique downtown, the one she used to joke about quitting once we made it. I parked 2 blocks away. Walked the rest. The front lawn was still trimmed, the porch still clean. It all looked the same. Too much the same. Like someone had pressed pause on our life and refused to admit the battery had died. I used my old key. It still worked. That felt almost insulting. Inside, the air was cold. Stale. Like the house had stopped breathing after I left. Nothing had changed, not really. Except the vibe. You know that weird feeling when you step into a hotel room right after someone else checks out? Everything's clean, but the presence still lingers. That's what the house felt like now. I noticed the basil plant on the table. Dead. Wilted in on itself like it had given up trying to be watered. I left it. I walked through each room, slow and quiet, like I was touring a museum of my own failure. The guest room still had the lamp I bought during our first Target argument. The bathroom still had her rosewater toner. My closet was half empty. The drawer where I kept my keys was empty. And on the fridge? A photo. Us. Smiling. Disneyland, 2 years ago. The corner was curling. She'd kept it up. That made me pause. Then, from the hallway, footsteps. Adam. Her voice. Too late. I turned around as she rounded the corner, keys in one hand, phone in the other. Her eyes widened when she saw me. Not fear, just surprise, and then something else. That thing people feel when they see the ghost they buried show up in the daylight. Why are you here? She asked. I could ask you the same, I said, calm as a priest. But I guess neither of us belong here anymore. She looked down at the basil. You came to get your things? I shrugged. I didn't leave much. Silence. The kind that makes clocks louder. I listened to your message, I added. She winced. I wasn't thinking clearly. No, I think you were. That made her flinch. I made a mistake, she said softly. No, I corrected. You made a series of choices. You don't trip and fall into another man's arms, Monica. Her face changed. Like the tears were trying to come, but even they weren't sure if they had the right script. I was lonely, she tried. I was right there, I said. She started to cry. Soft, careful tears, like even her sadness was curated. I don't love him, she whispered. And you think that changes this? She didn't answer. I looked around once more. Every corner of that house had held a version of me, of us. And now? It felt like walking through an old yearbook. The photos were still smiling, but the people had long since moved on. I came to say goodbye, I said. She looked up. What does that mean? It means I'm not coming back. Not now. Not ever. Her face crumpled. You can't mean that. I do. And that's the difference between us, Monica. I say what I mean. I meant our vows. I meant every Sunday morning when I made your coffee exactly the way you liked it. I meant it when I held your hand at your father's funeral. And I meant it when I said I loved you. And I meant it, too, she sobbed. No. You felt it. That's not the same. She didn't argue. She just sank into the nearest chair like her legs had given out. She didn't look at me again. Didn't say goodbye. And I didn't offer her the grace of another glance. I walked out. Closed the door behind me with the softest click I could manage. Because she didn't deserve a slam. That's too dramatic. Too loud. I wanted her to live in the quiet. The quiet of consequences. Back in the car, I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just breathed. And for the first time, that breath didn't taste like guilt. It tasted like air that belonged to me again. I didn't disappear after that. Not really. I just became harder to find. I moved 3 towns over, into a 1-bedroom over a print shop that closed on Sundays and smelled faintly of ink and old ambition. It was quiet. I liked quiet. I started running again. Eating better. Reading books without checking my phone every 10 minutes. I remembered who I was before I became someone else's emotional cushion. And Monica? She started showing up again. In texts. In emails. Once, even in person. She found me jogging by the river trail. I saw her parked by the side, watching. She stepped out of the car like someone trying to look casual in shoes that hadn't been worn since church. I've been going to therapy, she said. That's good, I replied, slowing my pace. I've been working on myself. I nodded. Keep doing that. I miss you, Adam. I don't. I didn't say it to hurt her. I said it because it was true. I had mourned her already. Buried the version of her I loved. Now, she was just a familiar stranger, like a photo you find in your wallet and can't quite bring yourself to throw away. Later that week, I visited a lawyer. Not to sue her. Not to get revenge in court. But to draw a line. A clean, legal, notarized line. The papers went out by Friday. Divorce. Simple, direct, no drama. I'd even left her the house. Let her repaint the memories. But here's the thing about betrayal. It never ends where it begins. Because while she'd spent months unraveling us, she forgot one very important detail. Joel was married. And Joel's wife? She wasn't the quiet type. Joel's wife, Rachel, reached out through a message on Facebook. The old-fashioned kind, short, sharp, and devastating. I think we should talk. We met at a small coffee place near her job. She was poised, controlled. You could tell she'd cried all the tears already, and now she was in the collect receipts and burn bridges phase. She handed me a folder. Photos. Screenshots. Emails. She had everything. Monica and Joel weren't just a mistake, she said. They were a plan. They booked hotels under fake names. Had burner accounts. It was systematic. I didn't ask how she knew. Some part of me already did. Rachel wasn't here for comfort. She was here for coordination. 2 betrayed spouses, equal parts hollow and furious. I've started the process of filing, she added. But before I do, I want him to feel it. Define feel, I said. She smiled. Public exposure. Business fallout. Strategic, not reckless. I sipped my coffee. And if I said I had recordings? Her eyes lit up. Then I'd say we should talk often. We became allies. Not romantically, not even emotionally. Just 2 people who understood each other's brand of pain, who knew how to weaponize the truth with surgical precision. We didn't ruin Joel. We just let the truth walk right up to his career, tap it on the shoulder, and clear its throat. The firm dropped him. The clients pulled their contracts. And when his face showed up on one of those professional ethics newsletters, I almost smiled. Almost. As for Monica, she tried to call. I didn't pick up. There was no rage in me anymore. Just resolve. And one final decision. I didn't confront Monica again. No showdown. No yelling. No cinematic final act. Instead, I sent her one thing. A package. Inside was a USB drive. On it, a folder labeled Clarity. It contained two things. The full dossier Rachel had collected. A recording of Joel and a phone call telling her it was never going to be serious. No note. No return address. Just facts. Let her sit with them. Let her understand that the man she risked everything for hadn't even packed a parachute. I mailed it from a town an hour away. Then I bought a slice of pie from a roadside diner and watched the sky darken with thunderclouds that never quite committed to rain. Somehow, that felt like closure. Weeks passed. My phone stayed silent. My heart? Steadier now. I didn't need her to respond. She'd already heard everything I ever needed to say the moment I walked out of our house and never came back. And as for revenge, I didn't take it with fists. I didn't throw punches or destroy property. I took it the only way that lasts. I let her see exactly who I'd become once she no longer had access to me. Not a broken man. Not a bitter one. Just gone. And the silence I left behind? Louder than anything she ever screamed.